All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. 46 minutes after the hour. Hope you guys are doing well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to Storm Talk, daily weather blog here on streaming for the Wave Weather app and on wave3.com and Roku, Fire Stick, where else? Twitch. We're all over the place. So I hope you guys are at least enjoying your Monday morning so far. I don't know, are you guys at work? I see your same names every day, so I'm just curious. Are you at work and you're watching? And I shouldn't say anything so I don't get you in trouble. Or are you at home and about to head to work and trying to get in a quick view here of the blog? So always curious what everyone's up to and where they're at and when they're watching here. And I'll try to keep that in mind too, especially if you are, busy at work. I try to be fast. Okay, work for myself is what Carrie says. Let's see. Blues at work. All right, I won't get you in trouble. Work night shift. Oh, Amanda. I've had that. Morgan's working from home. All right. Good job. Jason's at work. Shonda's like, I work later today, so you're up early. All right. Well, I appreciate you all being here with me and watching the blog. And hopefully I'm going to try to share some good news with you all. Try to. This weekend, it's kind of been a mix of good and bad, right? I mean, we had a decent day yesterday with sunshine until the afternoon, and things kind of went a little bit downhill for those of you to our north, especially later in the afternoon. But last night was very odd with the thunderstorm setup. We'll talk about that, where we're at, because that's a key player on how things work for the rest of the day today. And then we'll get into the heat and preview to how things are trending still toward August. I told you guys I'll do a long-term this week again update into this time. I think I'll go all the way to the end of September. I'll try to give you all some pieces of data that I'm looking at, but yeah, keep in mind weather is fairly locked in right now. I'll do that probably when we get into the heat wave part this week. We'll get into that. Right now, though, we need to focus on obviously the heavy rain scenario that is going to be coming our way at times for some areas, all right? One of those spots I'll be watching will actually be down into good old Bardstown, Kentucky. Here's a live look right now, kind of a interesting shot just because it's so bright in the distance there. But you see a mix of cumulus clouds and some high-level cirrus from the last night, the storms from last night that are still lingering overhead. But the cumulus are key. Those cumulus that pop and develop underneath that, those little specks of clouds you see there, that's key for those as they continue to grow in the sky. Those are the ones that will be eventually some thunderstorms later on for this afternoon. All right, so let's talk about where we're at on rain in the last 24 hours. It's easy to see where the complex of storms and a couple little spins when it comes to vorts, we call those, that track along this boundary. There are about 3, I believe, that were able to be picked out. One of those was around Cincinnati. Yeah, I gave folks at the airport some scary moments at the Northern Kentucky Cincinnati airport just because of the funnel clouds that were sighted near the runways in Cincinnati. So everyone was like, oh no. But thankfully they did not touch down. But that tracked quickly to the south and east. The second vort came in, moved right into Madison, really gave you guys a tremendous amount of rain there for a while and ended up with a training effect. And then the third one was in Illinois, but that's the one that was trying to head toward Louisville, but really just ran out of gas. It got too late in the night, and just really the cape went down dramatically, so it really just didn't have much to work with. There's no tailpipe anymore once you get to the other side of the boundary. So there's clearly the boundary. You get to the other side. The tailpipe is always like to call that, which is required for storms to have longevity to them. That was missing, so they just could not maintain. So the rain totals were very spotty because of that. So I'm going to give you a closer view in Louisville. I had 0 at my house, so I'm been dry really since the downpours from Saturday. Saturday's downpours, I think overall I'm at 7.8 inches of rain since last week. I'll show you guys some of the area totals in the last week, but I over 7 inches in the last week. But I picked up over 2.5 from Friday and Saturday. So yeah, it's I'm waterlogged. I don't know how you guys are feeling. Some of you have been missed. Obviously, last night, a lot of you were missed in Louisville and Point South, but into Jefferson County, Indiana, that was one of the higher areas for rain. Again, radar estimates, but in general, it's pretty close to lining up. Over 2 inches, probably 3-inch totals in some spots there. But this is the totals in the week's time period. And boy, when you get those reds, that's half a foot of rain. And several spots are at that half a foot of rain level. around Jasper into Du Bois County and Crawford County. Certainly Salem from the one event that we had, it was last Thursday, I believe. And of course, Madison's been building up from the rain last night. That puts you in a higher territory. Louisville, it's been really around portions of Okolona, Highview, the Easton, and J-Town into western Shelby County. That's been a big spot. It's the eastern side of Louisville versus the western side. Lower totals have been still noted, and still a gap is still there. I talked about this last week, but it's still prevalent there in northern areas of Meade County. Otherwise, Breckinridge County, different story, just down the road. Half a foot of rain. Spotty into southern Kentucky. Some of you around Bardstown and Hardin County that are watching right now, you probably have not had as much. And like, hey, we're okay. We haven't had too many worries here. But other areas, again, the hot spots you see there. And I'm showing you this not because I just want to ramble on week's rain totals, but I want to give you just an idea. This is still a factor on even today's rain on placement on whether or not we're going to run into issues with additional flash flooding today. After we get past today, the gaps between these downpours really begins to grow because we talk about the heat and we could get a few days here of dry weather. This is going to allow the water table to soak up all this rain, get caught up, and then once we get back into the stormy pattern, which I do think we will, we won't have as much of a worry because everything it's a clean slate, kind of gets wiped out and we start all over again kind of ordeal. But today it's still a factor with this map. So that's why I'm showing you that today. So where are they at? Well, so far nothing has really been popping, right? It's been quiet today. We've had a couple of downpours and showers, not really downpours really, just showers that have been moving across northeast sections of wave country, moving toward Ripley County, Dearborn County, Indiana. A few down here to Litchfield. Today it's all about the sun. That's the main factor. You saw those cumulus clouds were there into Bardstown. All right, so how the afternoon evolves is going to be key. Right now, a lot of the short-term data we've been looking at this morning is focusing on southwest Indiana and central and southern Kentucky as the spot for your heaviest downpours. What could change for Louisville and southern Indiana and the 71 corridor is if we get any heating here into Indiana. Right now, that's not looking likely. It's fairly cloudy. If we stay cloudy, there's not going to be a whole lot of action here that's going to fire, but we need to watch for anything that could develop out of Indiana then slide south and east. I will say there is somewhat some shear or a tailpipe from Indiana through Louisville and to Lexington points north. It's not a tremendous amount. That's why we're not looking at severe weather today. But it's enough that it could allow enough lift in the air, and again, a tailpipe, that if anything can form, it could hold on for a while. So this corridor is much more uncertain today than this corridor. This corridor, we're much more confident on heavy downpours developing. It's going to take a few more hours to get there. You got to get some heating, but you're in a spot where it's going to be a little more active. But again, you've had some of the lower end rain totals too. So yeah, that's the reason why we don't have an alert day placed right now for the area, because we think some of the heavier downpours will fall in an area that can handle it. But if we start to see a trend toward the northern sections of the area, parts of Louisville, Indiana, that we start to see an uptick potential on that, we will declare it alert day, and it could be at any point today. So just stay close to the Wave Weather app. We'll let you know when we decide that, but I don't think the need is there yet. Higher res data in the short term hasn't done the best. So we're nowcasting this one as we normally would anyway on a short-term day, but really nowcasting today. Again, just getting rid of the clouds, you just don't see a whole lot. It's very, very spotty and speckled, and it's going to be a lot of it's going to be heat-based today. So let me get to a wider view where you see the tropical moisture. It's still here. I mean, PWatts, or the amount of moisture in the air for your rainfall potential rate today, is still at about 2 inches. In fact, it's roughly about 2.1 through here, and for, I would say, around Louisville and the rest of Kentucky, it's about 2.0, and still fairly high, about 1.8 for the southern sections of Kentucky. That's the potential rainfall rates today that we're looking at. Anytime you get close to 2 inches, though, that gets your attention. That usually takes a tropical system to get us sometimes to that level. But you get into a 2.1, and certainly at times over the weekend we got about a 2.5, then you really got to pay attention for flash flooding. But it's up there still, so because of that, the Weather Service is continuing the flood watch that is out for Louisville and southern Indiana, and then all the way down into eastern Kentucky, because it's just not going to take much. Half inch to an inch per hour rate, which again, the potential is up to 2 inches. So if you're looking at only a half inch or an inch rate of accumulation there, then you're going to get into flash flooding quick. So that's why the flood watch is still out, I think, until 8 o'clock tonight. Actually, I can check and see. I don't know why I'm trying to guess, but I believe it is. I've had so many different alerts I've been looking at. Actually, that's Jackson. Let me get to Louisville's. There it is. Yeah, 8 p.m. is going to be the watch for Louisville today. All right, so we'll be watching it. Weather Prediction Center, they are too. They've got the slight risk out today for the flash flooding potential. And again, they're aiming for the idea of the best potential for your thunderstorms to fire today across the south. And again, it's just lower uncertainty on the northern section there. But I think this is fair where it's placed based on the amount of sun, because today's sun will matter. It will matter on especially thunderstorms. And again, remember, lightning concentration. When you look at the wave weather app and you see lightning, that's something you got to pay attention to. That's when your flash flooding threat is going to go up. If you have a really cluster of lightning too, I mean, like so many strikes, you can't even see what's going on. That's when you really got to pay attention. If it's 1 or 2 strikes embedded in rain, overall the rate is not going to be the max potential that I just mentioned. But if you get a lot of lightning, yes, that 2 to 2.1, you absolutely can get reached. So lightning is a good indicator on how things will play out too today. Okay, so here's one of the in-house models. I mean, it's fair to show this afternoon, not a whole lot in southern Indiana, northern Kentucky. It tries to, but it really likes to focus a lot of the thunderstorm action as you get into this afternoon, close to Louisville and in central and southern Kentucky. Again, sun is important today. If we get a few breaks, only an hour of a partly sunny sky will be enough to fire up some of these bad boys here, producing some of the heavier rates. This will continue to detract to the south. There will be a risk for some training in a couple of these. Some of these will back build up to the northwest. I'm thinking Bowling Green and maybe down toward Adair County. Somewhere in that zone has the best potential for some training that could happen. So heads up for you all if you're down in our very far southern sections here, wave country. Otherwise, off to the north, confidence is lower and should be more off and on because we're betting on clouds. And 2, if you get a lot of thunderstorms, anytime you get thunderstorms south and west of your location and the flow is a flow coming in from the south and west, a lot of your blow off, your cirrus cloud shield goes off of these and gets pulled and shows up over an area to the northeast of it, and that actually tames down the atmosphere just a bit more when you see that happen. So sometimes thunderstorms to your south, the clouds getting pulled off of them can actually calm things down on the other side. But anyway, getting all meteorological technical there, but I just wanted to explain how things balance out. Okay, so that continues into tonight, and then tomorrow we start to lose the key moisture levels where it counts for thunderstorms to develop. They get more suppressed. It's still going to be humid. So don't get me wrong. You'll be like, why? Wait a minute, you're saying it's drier, so that's the reason why we got no thunderstorms. Well, it's drier in certain parts of the layers of the atmosphere and warmer aloft. So again, thunderstorms like chaos. Thunderstorms like imbalance. They love it to get colder as you go up. That's their favorite thing in the world. That's what makes them happy. That's how they thrive. If they try to build and they go up and it gets warmer as you go up instead of colder, they hate that. Not to get a personality to them, but I'm trying to, it's easier sometimes to do that. They hate that and they don't develop. They try, you see the cumulus pop and it tries to become a giant cotton ball, but it just can't get there. And that's exactly what I think we're going to see for parts of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, having said that, rain chance is not 0. 1 or 2 sometimes can punch through that layer and you get your isolated storms, and usually the heat island around Louisville can do that. It's got enough rise in the air motion that it can punch through, and what we call bust the cap. It can happen, but I think overall most of them will not be able to do that. So this is it today. This is it today on the heavy rain talk. I think once we get past today, we're going to be talking about heat starting tomorrow, and as we get into Wednesday, you can see the Cape is a combination of all the factors of moisture and instability. It kind of brings it all together, and you can see how your best potential is still west, but it's just not enough where it counts here. So the heat just takes over as the headline. Now, eventually that will change. I'm thinking this weekend, more on that in a second. So here's an example of the heat index. They're going to be facing actual temperatures in the blue. 94 Wednesday, 96 Thursday, 93 Friday. Heat index over 100 every day. Obviously Thursday is the most concerning of 109. That's going to get us close to extreme heat warning level. Right now, heat advisory level I think is likely and very close to extreme heat warning potential on that. We're monitoring that carefully because that is going to be overall middle and the latter part of the week here is going to be tough to breathe outside, and we're just not going to recover. The city of Louisville, I would be really surprised if the city of Louisville can drop below 80 again for the rest of the week at night. Tonight may be the last night we can do that. And then we're probably going to stay warm all week. So if you live in the metro, especially in the core of the metro, then you're going to be dealing with the AC struggling here again for this week. So what's the long term look like? Well, the showers and thunderstorms, again, taking a break. This is still the Dexter wannabe thing. We do have a tropical wave. I didn't get a chance to get to it right here. That is going to be moving. Actually, it's more over here. This is going to be moving to the north and east or northwest into the Caribbean. It could get to be a named system down the road. So just FYI for you tropical lovers, we are watching that. Otherwise, we do have the tropical feature that is still the Dexter wannabe that is doing that loop-de-loop and will continue to do. It's trapped. It can't really go anywhere. It's going to just keep going around, 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 around. So at some point, it could develop if it's caught in the right spot over water. So still some potential on that down to the southeast. Otherwise, the heat is our big story for us as we into the latter part of the week. You see the heat shield. Let me pull this down a little more. The heat shield has still got a grip on us. Now, once we get into the weekend and next week, it's kind of an odd setup. There's a bit of a split in the high that happens. So you can even see that very clearly on the Euro map. We got, let me redraw that. Got a center of the high here and a center, part of your Bermuda high here into the Atlantic. There is a weakness right in between that could allow for showers and storms to form this weekend at a spot that's going to be located very close to the Ohio River Valley, right in through here where that weakness is. It's possible. It's only a weekend issue because once we get past the weekend, it will try to reestablish again and connect as one piece. And the heat will come back into play early next week for a couple of days. And then the Euro does something that is interesting. And the GFS is different, but the Euro wants to take the conglomerate, once they bump back together again as one piece, wants to take it and then push it to the west. Now, unfortunately, that puts us back into the lovely Ring of Fire again around the last day of July and heading into August. You can look at that dip. I mean, it looks like cold weather, but it's not. But that's quite this significant drop for the Great Lakes in the Northeast. They're going to love that. Unfortunately for us, we will drop, but we're dropping because of clouds and thunderstorms, not so much cooler and refreshing air. It's just we're back into the weakness. GFS, just FYI, does not yet agree on the push to the west here. It wants to hold on to the ridge of heat just a little bit longer into August. So there's some disagreement. This has obviously been the pattern we've been in a lot this summer, so it's hard to ignore it. But we'll work on this. And I'll talk more about that trend for the end of July and August later this week when I do the long-term, but I just want to give you a snapshot. Let me get into the 10-day, get to your questions. I see you guys chiming, and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to ignore you. Today, 88. Just because of the clouds, thunderstorm chances, again, we'll monitor this hour by hour today. If you are south, you have a better potential than north. The Louisville area is right on the edge of that. Tomorrow, the heat starts to builds for the middle of the week, builds for the end of the week, and then we get into that weakness in between the two highs for the weekend that allows for some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and then the heat will try to briefly grab us again early next week before, again, it does that slide to the west, which you see a hint of at the very end of the 10-day. All right, so hopefully that helps explain the entire storyline. Let me get back all the way up, get all the way to the very beginning of some of your questions here. So I apologize if I'm going to repeat some things. But I try to hopefully explain everything before you all get to your questions so you don't have to worry. Everyone's still telling me where they're at. Okay, good. Several of you are retired. I'm jealous. I'm ready to retire. I think it's time for me to retire. Adam said he's had a 1.07 into his gauge in the past 24 hours. Carrie, 5.5 in southeast. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that report. That's a tremendous amount. Dew points in the upper 70s. Yeah, Adam, that's what's going to lead to the overnight lows struggling. We got 77, but again, I'm very suspect that the city of Louisville is going to get below 80. But that's not it's hard to, the 10 days designed for the Louisville area, just so you know, just because it's the greatest population zone of wave country. So that's why Majority of the people live within the zone that's impacted by this 10-day. But I know a lot of you are not within that zone. So you got to keep in mind some of your numbers will be a little lower than what the metro is going to have. Same for Indiana and central and southern Kentucky. So it's tough to do a 10-day for every area on TV at once. So this is just a snapshot. But I think you guys, if you're used to weathercast, you understand that. You know how to relate that to your area. That'll be a little lower. What'd you say, Amanda? Of course, the 1st of August is my birthday. I was hoping for some decent weather. Well, hang in there, Amanda. It could still change. It could still change. Hey, you never know. I mean, it's changed a lot in 24 hours. I mean, the data hasn't done as great. Chris said I lived near Florence and had to go through all those tornado warnings last night. It was pretty crazy and unexpected. Yeah, the tornado potential was there, but I don't think it was talked about a whole lot because it's very uncommon with that kind of shear to get a ton of spin. But there were 3, at least, areas that were trying to spin last night from Illinois all the way to Cincinnati. And they were just right along that boundary. So they tended to produce more funnel clouds than tornadoes as far as touching down. So that's why we had no reports of tornadoes. They were all just funnel cloud reports that we got because it's just not strong enough to be a full-fledged tornado. It's very brief in nature. Sometimes you get more than one funnel. They try to touch down, but they just really can't get the right atmosphere to do that. But there's enough of a spin to certainly drop down just a bit. So that's scary in itself because you just don't know if they're going to touch down or not. But last night wasn't a huge tornado threat, but I get it. It doesn't matter because when the warning comes out, you got to treat it the same way, and the sirens go off, and I understand. Anxiety shoots up. Margaret, when I was in California, they did have forecasts for various areas in Los Angeles regions that were different. It'd be fun to have a 10-day for the 3 main areas that wave covers. Yes, and if you, in Charleston, when I worked in Charleston, South Carolina, we did one for the beaches and one for away from the coast. A lot of cities like Columbia, Winston-Salem, Charlotte even, they do a mountain forecast, then more of the Piedmont type area, and then more of the coastal side. So they do 3. Anytime you deal with elevation, it's a little more common to see multiple 10 days in elevation areas or beaches. Wave country is a little different. It's a little harder to do that because it's when you have a mountain range, it's easier to go from mountains, more of the plateau, and the beach. It's kind of a lined area. Wave country is a circle with its forecast. The heat is right in the middle like a dot, and then it's another circle outside of that. It's still elevated, and then another circle outside of that. So it's a different shape, harder to do to display. But Margaret, we think about that often. And what we've done, if you ever see the tonight forecast and tomorrow forecast that are just the actual, let's see if I find one that we added in. For an example, here's a tonight forecast. It's probably this one was done yesterday, though, to be honest. But just as an example, when we display this forecast, what we do is we put in, sorry, it's so loud. We put in the suburbs right there on the title of it, right in through there where it says suburbs 70 to 75 under the temperature. So we try to sort of account for the suburbs when we do that, so you guys just know that the potential low-end number and potential high-end number, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. But good questions, guys. Trust me, we talk about it a lot. And the heat-on effect is getting so much more dramatic. It's getting harder to display the differences there in between the areas. Brad, are we too far out to see any tropical issues for the Gulf shores the first week of August? The one wave that is out in the Atlantic right now would be your only concern because it would take about a week to get into the Caribbean, and where it goes from there, I don't know yet. But that will be the one to watch, Brad. The one, I think it's 94L is the name of it right now in the central Atlantic. In an area for you weather gurus, it's called the ITCZ, the Intertropical Convergence Zone. One of my favorite acronyms when I was in school. But it's been quiet because there's been so much dust from Africa this year, so it hasn't really had a chance to fire. That dust level is going down, so now it's starting to fire up more. Carrie, my place still hasn't hit 90 because I live in the woods. Hey, that's the benefit, Carrie, if you're out there. I'm sure the heat index has been miserable, but at least your actual numbers are not climbing as high. Oh, you're welcome, Margaret. You're welcome. Yeah, the circles versus elevation, it is tough. It's a pain, but we're always thinking about that. How can we do that? How can we display that? And we do design the app that way. Just so you know, the app, we have it as four levels actually on the app that we control. And it depends if you're on the parkways. The forecast for Mount Washington is different than even Okolona. Indiana has a different forecast, especially around Madison, than what LaGrange has. We actually have different zones that we just don't see, you guys don't see on TV, but on the app, we do adjust for your area. And we hand type that in. So what I do, and I'm about to do when I get off the blog here, I spend about 10 minutes. This is why I usually have to run off of here because that takes about 10 minutes to do it, but 10 minutes to fine tune your forecast for the individual areas that I talked about, ranging from one end of wave country, our 34 counties that we cover, and then that gets updated. So when you see the app, it should be based on where you're at. All right, so I hope that helps. Even if we can't display it on TV, at least we take care of you on the app. Mendez, is the storms today going to be bad? One or two could be gusty. I think it's more of an issue of loud. A couple are going to be loud, and heavy rain obviously is going to be a bigger ordeal. The app says you can't find your location. Do you maybe click on follow me at the top? If you click follow me, then maybe it will lock into at least your. So I click on follow me anyway, because that way, if I'm traveling anywhere within wave country or even on vacation or anything like that, the app is going to follow me based on the conditions that I'm at. So if there's a weather alert in Florida and I'm in Florida, it will notify me. So follow me is a really good way to do it. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're the only ones that do hand typing for the Wave Weather app in detail like that. So we try to be as specific as we can. And if there's typos, it's usually me. And I'm sorry, guys. Grammar is not my strong suit. It's really not. I was a science nerd, and English was hard for me, which is part of my job, which is not a good thing. But grammar issues, my brain goes so fast in typing, and so yeah, I apologize. It's usually going to be me if you have something weird in the app, though. The crew here is used to that. They make fun of me all the time. They're like, oh, typo? Must be Brian. Crispy, I get to your question, then I got to run here because I do have to work on the app. What's the reason for the modeling handled this weekend so poorly? Just a poor job of the outflows, being unpredictable. Yes, it's not so much of the data due to funding as it is the idea that in this type of scenario, a lot of the modeling that we have, you hear a lot about the HER and they call it the FE3. Those are convective type models that are designed just for thunderstorm type setups, really. But yes, if the boundary is off, there's an outflow that's unexpected, it changes everything, which is what I love about meteorology. Even AI got this wrong at times this weekend, which should tell you that as long as the chaos theory exists and the butterfly effect, there's always that X factor in meteorology that we are always never going to find, never going to get right, which is why weather remains unpredictable. Now, having said that, we have the ability to be over 95 to up to 99% accurate now on a lot of data that comes in and forecasting. But it's not 100%, and I just don't see how it's ever going to get to 100% with the chaos theory. It's still the reason why you wake up on those mornings when you're a kid and you had, were expecting snow and the ground was bare and you had rain and you were upset. You had to go for the day. And those days when you're expecting rain, you woke up and you had a foot of snow, although 1994. So there are moments that are really missed, much more common in the older days, if you will, than today. Although today, I think the biggest issue today, and not to get on the soapbox, is that there's too many weather models. Too many. It's a lot of noise, and I think it gets confusing, and anyway, I just think there's too much of it, and I think it can be overwhelming at times, especially if you look at all of it, trying to figure out what's going on, when really you just got to pay attention to the atmosphere. Look at the story it's trying to tell you. And sometimes the radar, the satellite, and current conditions outside, just looking at the map in general across the country, you kind of can see the big picture and the story that is about to happen. And I think that's more important than those finer details, is how things evolve. But I'm big on that. I'm big on the 10-day. I love the 10-day. I think the 10-day is very important. It's the most important thing other than the radar that I think we have in a weathercast. because I think the pattern and how things cycle through really help you and understand meteorology easier than the day-by-day stuff. Tawana, preach. Thanks, Tawana. All right, you guys are great. I appreciate it. And you guys joining me, but again, I got to start working on the app here. And we'll watch these trends for today on the radar site. So just make sure to stay close. In case we decide to go with an alert day for part of the area anyway, we'll declare that and we'll send it out. Right now, we're just not to a position that our confidence is high enough to do that. But stay tuned just in case. All right, have a good rest of your Monday, everyone. I will see you guys coming up on midday at 11 a.m. All right, take care. See you on the flip side, guys.